Okay, Becky.
All right, this question comes from Tarafter, a shareholder in Sierra Vista, Arizona, who is asking a question of Ajit. Wants to know about electric vehicles getting insurance from the manufacturer instead of car insurance companies. A recent article in the Wall Street Journal shows that though EVs are a small but growing percentage of sales, Tesla and GM are offering their own electric vehicle insurance. What will Geico do to combat this?
Yeah. So Geico is talking to a number of original equipment manufacturers as well to try and see how best they can work with the auto manufacturer and offer insurance at the point of sale. There haven't been very many success stories as yet. So we'll wait and see. Clearly it is a very convenient way to sell auto insurance at the point of sale. But there's a fair amount of data that needs to be collected on the driver, not just the car. And that makes it a little more complicated. So we are talking to some auto manufacturers ourselves. We are hopeful that we will strike a deal with some of them before not too long. Tesla has made, and GM, they both have talked a lot in the press in terms of getting into the insurance business. And in fact, GM, I think, has projected they'll write $3 billion of premium, which, it's hard to imagine where it'll come from. But they're all hot to trot. I think somebody will find the secret sauce before not too long, and we ourselves are in that race.
Yeah, I would point out that General Motors had Motors insurance for decades, and I mean this is not a new idea, and Uber wrote a lot of insurance for a while. They laid it off with somebody, and that company got killed by it. But and I don't know the deal between Uber and forget the name of the company that took it on. Ajit would probably know, but
James River.
Yeah, and there's nothing. It's not a new idea. It's not magic in the least. I mean, it is hard to come up with something that is better at matching risk to reward, risk to price, than a bunch of very smart people are doing it at Progressive, and a bunch of very smart people are doing it to a greater extent at Geico. And I mean, it was fascinating to me when Uber went into it, and they were going to get their head handed to them, but they laid off a good bit of it. Very, very substantial percentage of it was somebody else who got their head handed to it, and but it was a story. Wall Street loves it. And, we've got 80 car dealerships that do a lot of business, and we've got the people buying the car and the place, and we form an insurance company around the dealer group for some reason that writes insurance. It's hard to improve on the present system.
Yeah,
I wouldn't pay a penny. I'd pay to avoid it, actually. I mean, and go ahead, Ajit.
Yeah, the only point I'd like to add is the margins on writing auto insurance are 4%, which is a very small number. And once there are more people that are trying to take a bite of the apple, it just becomes very, very difficult to keep all the mouths fed in a profitable manner.
Yeah, you can say there was one big new idea in insurance and car insurance back in 1920 or so when State Farm started, and State Farm still has it next to Berkshire. It's the leader in having net worth. It's a mutual company, but some guy just figured that there was a cartel running car insurance, and Farmer from Myrna is the name of the book, I think, and over in Illinois, and he created a system where you really took 20 points or so out of the cost, and surprise, surprise, here he is, and nobody's owned stock in State Farm. It's an insult to capitalism, actually. Everything you learn at the business school says it shouldn't work because nobody owns it, nobody's going public with it, no nothing. But it's got more net worth it's almost probably double, leaving Berkshire out of the picture, it's probably double the next guy, and nobody's really improved on their system that much. So it's fascinating how people don't really look at the essence. These are cases that should carry a message. But the truth is, in Wall Street, anything can get the test is whether you can sell it or not. If you can sell it, it'll get sold. And a bunch of insurance companies came along and got it sold. And this can be a story about this stock or that stock. And it sounded good when they talked about it at Uber for a while. And it is really interesting. The investing public does not learn much. Okay, station 11.
Hi, my name is Jeff Merriam. I'm from Edina, Minnesota. We've been coming for years. To make that professor from the earlier question really nervous, half our family's wealth is in Berkshire Hathaway.
Well, it doesn't make Charlie nervous.
My question has to do with voting control in the future. There was a question earlier about corporate raider. I was more wondering about who is actually going to own the voting control. Is it going to be institutions, CalPERS, BlackRock? Are they eventually going to get their way with the ESG check boxes that we're going to have to check? And what should we be thinking about that?
Well, you're thinking very well. And the interesting thing is the big aggregations look like, of course, they'd be in index funds. But what index funds want is they want a world in which society doesn't get upset with them about the fact they've got all the voting power. And I would say in the last year or two, it's looked like a better idea for them not quite to get as, what was the phrase that Charlie used?
They backed off a lot.
Yeah, they backed off a lot, and it's in their interest to back off. And interestingly enough, in looking at money management, the game is not performance; it's assets under management, and index funds produce a tiny fee on assets under management because it was pioneered by Vanguard, and it's when it became successful, it was very easy to replicate. Not so easy, but I mean, it was inevitable to be copied. But it came with a management fee of 2 basis points. So what people that have offered index funds would really like is you to buy their other funds or let them manage money in some other way so that they get a higher fee on assets under management, which, of course, is exactly why the index fund was invented in the first place. But so it's gotten, it's not a loss leader, but it is a way to pull money in. And then you hope that people ignore what was said by what's his name, that Jack Bogle. They ignore him, and essentially they give up the idea, and that we'll offer you a fund that does this in India, and we'll offer you another fund that does that. And, of course, those management fees are higher. So they're really counterselling the idea that John Bogle came along with. But in the process, they have achieved a lot of votes, and that was fun for a while. But the last thing in the world they want to do is have Washington or the American public decide that they're throwing around their weight too much. So they're tending to back off now. If you figure out where their self-interest is, you can judge where their behavior is going to go. Charlie, you want to defend them?
No, you can swear what you just said. You're totally right on everything.
Well, in that case, I won't ask anybody else.